Hello everybody, I am Lyssa Barber. I'm the founder of The Mind Bee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the impacts of lockdown on our well-being. There is an irony, I realised, in this being about mental health and me effectively spending 15 minutes talking to myself. But I'll give you a little bit of background. I've had mental health issues since I was a little girl, resulted from trauma from a fairly young age. I've experienced depression, severe anxiety, I have obsessive compulsive disorder, I've had panic attacks, I've also self-harmed, and I have been suicidal. I got no support during school, during university, during the early part of my career. In fact, I didn't fully realise that what I was experiencing was mental ill health until I had a breakdown at the age of 32. I guess I thought everybody felt like I did and that I should just get on with it, that it was totally normal. And experiencing a period of mental ill health at that time, so this is back at the early 2000s, was very difficult. The company I worked for had no idea how to deal with it. I was signed off by my GP. I was very fortunate in that my GP was great. She signed me off to recover. My boss was beyond unhelpful. In fact, he went one step beyond that, became actively harmful for me. So it was that experience that motivated me sometime later to get more involved in mental health and more involved in mental health support, to see if I could help improve things for people who might find themselves in a similar position. I founded a mental health network in 2015, which now has over 450 members in the UK, and we've since launched versions of that in the US and in Asia. I had planned to do a video about my experience of burnout last year, my return to work, the things that I had learned, but obviously COVID has had other plans and has completely shifted everybody's worldview and everybody's experience. So I'm going to talk about mental health under lockdown. The risks of isolation and stress and the steps that we can take to look after ourselves, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the kind of basics of well-being as well. We, all of us, especially anyone in a leadership role, really need to be aware that the risks, the hidden costs of lockdown are very high, and only proactive steps that we take now will help offset these. If you are watching this, the chances are you're already aware of how important mental well-being is, or you're conscious of your influence as a leader, which is fantastic. You may already have strategies in place to keep yourself on the positive side of sane, which is great. And if not, maybe some of the content in this will help. So we have two major risks to well-being at the moment, isolation and fear. And even in cases when you're isolating at home with loved ones, that feeling of lack of control, you can still feel isolated, and cabin fever can be incredibly powerful. And emotional distress is common in quarantine, and also common in the period that follows that. According to the UN's Interagency Standing Committee, it is common for people during quarantine, particularly during the COVID-19 quarantine, to feel very stressed, worried about becoming ill, because obviously due to the contagious nature of the virus and the lengthy incubation period, feel stressed or worried about exhibiting symptoms of common illnesses, cold or a cough, which can be mistaken for COVID-19. They fear being separated from loved ones, from losing loved ones, and feel very powerless to help the people around them. People fear losing jobs, losing their livelihoods, and they can feel helpless and experience intense boredom and loneliness. These are powerful feelings, and we must ensure that we keep talking about how we feel so that we can keep those connections and find the right support. Now, I just mentioned loneliness. Loneliness is not just being alone. It is a state of mind, and it's actually in the UK one of our fastest growing problems. 61% of adults report experiencing periods of loneliness. And you'd think, well, that's not such a big deal, but the physical health issues stemming from loneliness are extensive. Increased risk of stroke and heart disease, decreased memory capacity, alcoholism and other addictions, altered brain function. These are just some of the things that can be exacerbated or triggered by loneliness. Lonely adults also get less exercise and typically eat less well, sleep less well, and report more daytime fatigue, which is clearly going to be hugely impactful if you're at work and expected to perform. These things are all hugely exacerbated by lockdown. Being with other people doesn't necessarily make you feel less lonely. If you are physically alone, though, it can make that sense of loneliness much, much worse. And depression can also be the culprit. Loneliness can be a symptom of depression. So what can we do? Keep connecting. Use every channel available to you at your disposal. Find regular ways to catch up with people at work. Colleagues can be a great source of contact. Catch up with your family, your friends groups, and be very aware of those people who might not be proactive about connecting. You might have to make the first move. You might have to work out who you haven't heard from and actually get in touch with them. If you are in a leadership role, if you're a boss or a line manager or a team lead, think about putting a buddy system in place in your business. Match people based on their interests. They might not know one another very well, and then get them to commit to a twice weekly coffee, virtual coffee, or a lunch over Skype or Zoom or Teams or whatever you're using at work. These can make a huge difference, because the key is actually the quality of the connection, not the quantity. If you speak daily to somebody that you find draining, that is not going to make you feel less lonely. But if you connect even just once a week, once every 2 weeks, with someone whose energy you find nourishing, someone who lifts you up, that could be a game changer. The second big risk that we have at the moment is that fear of the future, that news fatigue, stress, which we have all around us. We have a 24/7 non-stop cycle of negative news. So it's a terrifying, often incomprehensible statistics. It's health related, so it feels like it's something that's very outside of our control. Even with somebody with really robust mental health, that is going to be, over time, that ongoing exposure is going to have an effect. It's going to take a toll. So it increases something called allostatic load, which is a sort of fancy way of talking about the physiological impacts of chronic stress, that wear and tear on the body. So that's fatigue, exhaustion, cognitive impairment, your ability to think straight is actually taken away from you. Poor sleep, lack of energy, emotional instability. So that's either losing your temper or crying over something that's seemingly very, very minor, and so on. I've had that myself. I had a row over something extremely small with my husband, and it became such a big deal because it was cumulative. It's stress from that overexposure to negative news. So you need to step back. We all have control to do this. We can limit how much news and how much social media we are consuming. So really put those boundaries in place. Catch up with the news once a day, once every couple of days. Find some balance with news sites like Positive News, or download the Good Network app, because there are still amazing things happening out there, but they are being drowned out by the negative news cycle. So we talk about the 5 basics of lockdown wellbeing. I mean, these are the 5 basics of wellbeing, full stop. But if you can get most of these into your kind of daily routine, into your schedule, you'll not only be doing yourself a massive favor, but you'll also be helping anyone that you interact with, or anyone who looks to you for guidance or care. The first thing that you can do for yourself, but the most important thing, and I would put this right at the top of the list, that you can do for your well-being, is get more, better sleep. Okay? Practice good sleep hygiene. No screen time within an hour before bed. Get a really good routine going. If you've got kids, you'll already know firsthand how important bedtime routine is, and how little it can take to disrupt that, and how terrible a night's sleep somebody will get if their routine is disrupted. This doesn't change just because we grow up. I mean, the reasons for disruption might change. It's not, you're not having a tantrum because you didn't get the right bedtime story, but the effects are the same. So don't lie awake in bed. Don't train your brain that bed is for lying awake in. If you can't sleep, get up and do something else until you feel sleepy, and then come back to bed. No bright lights. Read a book, have a hot drink, have a bath. The things that we hear about, that you can actually do, that these are effective things that you can do to help train your brain that it's ready for bed. Number 2, movement. Bodies are designed to move. We're not designed to sit, she says, sitting in a chair. Get outside at least once a day if you can. You don't need to be smashing cycling records or running marathons, although if you are, fantastic. But your body will appreciate this chance to move. And if you're lucky enough to be able to get out to nature, if you live near a park, if you live near trees, do that, because there is a huge amount of data to show how much being in green space is beneficial to us. Number 3, nutrition and hydration. Okay, so we know this. We know we're supposed to drink 8 glasses of water a day. We know we're supposed to get our 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, but stress, lockdown particularly, brings out poor food choices. So do try and focus on that, and do your body the favor and put good things into it. I'm only going to touch very briefly on alcohol, because hypocrite, I have actually a gin and tonic while I'm recording this. But you know what your drinking habits are like. If you find that you're kind of veering away from that, it might be time to reflect on changes that you might want to think about making. Number 4, routine. If you're working from home, it needs a different kind of discipline from your experience of working in an office. As much as you can, stick to your routine. Get up at the same time, have a shower, get dressed. Clearly you don't have to put a suit on, but don't just slob around in your pajamas. You want your brain to actually understand that there's a difference between resting and working. And crucially, when you're setting your work hours, really focus on what time your day will end, right? This is important. Don't let work life bleed into home life too much. If you've got family at home, they want to know what time you're going to be available, and you need to be able to shut your laptop or log off and go, right, that's it, this is now my me time. Working all the time, not setting those boundaries, that is your fastest route to burnout. So you've got to watch out for that. And the last one, I'd say be kind. And we always talk about being kind to other people, be kind to one another, but actually I think you have to first and foremost be kind to yourself. Because how we all cope is different, and how we each choose to cope is equally valid. You don't have to bake, you don't have to make sourdough. I mean, I have, but you don't have to do these things. You don't have to learn a new language. You might be homeschooling your kids and working and doing all of the other things that people on Instagram seem to be doing with ease. You don't have to do these things. It's enough to be getting by. If everybody is safe and alive at the end of the day, you're doing great. It's also okay to feel bad. It's okay to grieve for the things that you're missing, for the friends that you're not seeing, and the plays that you're not going to, or the movies that you're not seeing, or the holidays you're not taking, or any of the things that you feel might have been taken away from you by this period of lockdown. It is okay to feel bad about that. Telling yourself that you're not allowed to feel bad because somebody else has it worse, does that improve their lot? Does that negate their difficulties? It doesn't. It just makes you feel bad. It helps nobody. So it is okay to feel bad, and it's okay to acknowledge those feelings. When you are dealing with others, remember, you don't have to show up for every argument you're invited to. You really don't have to. My husband and I have a great lockdown game we play called Why Are You Doing It Like That? And it goes on for ages and there are no winners. So take a deep breath before you engage and remind yourself that everybody's doing their best. So as a final thought, I would just say keep talking. Humans are social animals, and this is one of the things that we miss massively. So do keep in touch when you can. You can get in touch with me. Either my email address is on themindbee.com. Do get in touch if you'd like me to come and talk to your business virtually, obviously, socially distanced. But do look after yourselves and take care.